It only lasts, it's about 6 hours usually is what it says.
I'll do it with you. Like drops or whatever?
Yeah,
Pritchard.
yeah, he's doing it.
I got it.
Wow. Who did you go through?
I just went to my doctor because I was like, I don't want to make. I just said, why go through an eye appointment? And then trying to sell me glasses.
Right.
Your regular doctor.
So I just went to my regular doctor.
Interesting.
Pay my copay. He goes, yep. He said he's done.
I think others have tried.
Yeah, it's farsighted. So it's up close.
Here, I'll tell you, if you want to tell him, it's this little button on the side, you just push that down.
Yeah, but how can you, but I was gonna show him how you can mute it only for a period of time.
Oh, well, when the call comes in, there's a green button or a red button. You can just hit the red that you want it to go directly to voicemail.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, he can hit that.
I saw those
but I
commercials.
don't
You're
think
the
there's
first
really a
person
way
I've
to put
met.
a timer or
See,
anything on it.
mine is,
Story back
I
when
can
got
put it
approved
on
in
mute and I
December.
can have it on the
And
temporary.
I was talking.
Oh,
I called him over the other day, and the girl I
Like
was
3 hours, I did the night.
doing the paperwork, and she said,
I don't know
I
that.
can't
I
get
can
out
Google
that. So I
that.
just called my doctor. I said, hey, have you ever prescribed? He goes, yeah, I've already prescribed
Back
it.
to him here.
Really? I haven't even heard about it.
I thought I put mine out there.
I just suffer through most of the time.
Since I was in second grade, but if I could get rid of having to like switch back and forth all the time,
Right.
that's what I would love to get rid of.
If everybody will find their seats, we'll call to order the meeting of the County Council for April 2022. Want to welcome everyone out tonight. We'll have the record show that all councilmen are in attendance. And we will start with the Pledge of Allegiance and the prayer. Vicki Kivett will lead us in prayer, and Kelly Acala is going to lead us in the pledge. You all stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dear Heavenly Father, we just thank you for this free country in which we live. We just pray that we have the opportunity to gather as a government entity and listen to the people, to move our county forward, to have those visions. Dear Lord, we just thank you for this Easter season as it approaches and the meaning behind that tomb. We pray that you be with the people of this world, keep us safe, keep us out of harm's way. We pray for those who are in troubled conditions. We pray for those who need healing and guidance, dear Lord, love and comfort and healing. And all these things we pray in your precious name, as we all say, amen.
Thank you, Vicki. Did everyone have a chance to review the minutes from our March 7th, 2022 meeting? Were there any questions or changes?
Kelly Acala will make a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
We have a motion on the floor to approve the minutes.
Roy Sprinkle, second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0. Well, I told Dan Baston I had a pen. Now my pen won't write, so I'm digging for another one. I got it. Thank you. Okay, we're going to start with the American Rescue Plan Act, the additional appropriation for the COVID testing supplies. That one's come up several times, but we do have it listed this tonight correctly under the American Rescue Plan Act for $10,800. I look for a motion to approve that from that fund, if you so desire.
Kelly Acala will make that motion for $10,800.
Thank you,
Keller
Kelly.
will second.
Chip Keller will second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Same sign. Motion carries 7-0. The next item we have is an additional, appropriation reduction. You want to explain that to us, Dan?
Yes, this is for the, if you want, hand
Okay.
those down. There's a worksheet, there was a worksheet in your meeting packet. I updated it with some additional information on this particular one. I've added in there what the total cost was for each road that was part of this community crossing matching grant. This is the grant where the state contributes 50% of the money and for paving of various roads in the county. This particular grant was one that was for the spring of 2021. The reason there is a appropriation reduction is the fact that the initial or first appropriations were based on the engineer's estimates, but due to the fact that the bids came in and so much lower than the engineer's estimates that we received some really good deals on these paving projects. And so more money was appropriated than was received by the state and county to the tune of the $246,154.58. The worksheet that just came down, I will look to you as guidance, how deep in the weeds you want me to get into this. I can go over this worksheet if you'd like, or we can just move on. It's up to you.
I don't need an explanation.
Dan, is it a fair statement, because I've heard Tony talk about in meetings how he's moved, we're now bidding at the beginning of the construction or the paving cycle instead of kind of waiting for that second. You think that's a big reason we got such better bids?
Well, this particular projects, they weren't in that cycle.
Oh, they weren't?
That's a new, that's what we're going to do new going forward.
I'll go ahead and address that. So the reason we got such good bids this time for this CCMG grant was still that 69 was happening, and we were getting the spill off from everything that was going to 69.
Right.
So they maximized their plants, and they sent everything they could to I-69 with a few trucks here and there to us. And because of that, we were getting ridiculously low rates for asphalt, at $68 a laid ton, and I think I was estimating 74. But 69 is still going to have an effect for the next couple of years. So we just did the bids for this year with all local funds. We just awarded today, actually, we opened bids for this last coming bid announcement. We were at the much earlier in the cycle, like we're getting to. And E&B, now that 69 is open, blew away the competition. They were 7.5% below everybody else. Three other contractors all bid within 0.6% of my estimate. E&B wanted it, everything south. So we had, between Wallace and E&B, I think we saved another $230,000 this last year, over 2.4 million. So yeah, it's all about timing and the location of 69. And I think I talked about that.
You did, you shared that with us, I think at budget time.
At budget time,
And
even a year and a half ago.
Exactly.
Throw money at paving because we're going to get deals. So it'll get a little bit worse, obviously, even with the way oil is going now. But even with the prices going up, we still got a great deal. As 69 moves forward north, there'll be a little bit less and less, but we still have a couple good years of wheelhouse paving, we'll call it. So
That's great.
Thank you, Tony.
Thanks for the explanation.
For Tony, before he steps away.
I'll just give you a heads up, come the May meeting, there will be an additional appropriation for this too. I'd study the worksheet if you would, because it's quite complicated, but the fact that the reduction in appropriation is due to the difference between the engineer's estimates and the actual bids. But then when the final project amount was set by the state, there was an overrun on the total, and so additional money to the tune of 58,000.
that's 3,400.
$55,346.95 is going to have to come from the Motor Vehicle Highway Fund into the Community Crossing Matching Grant Fund, and that's going to have to be appropriated in order to shore up the negative balances. It's quite involved, kind of complicated, but I just wanted to give you a heads up before the May meeting. You say, wait a minute, we did this reduction, but we got to do it two different steps.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and just to be clear, the 246 is that reduction, but then that 55 is actually money that has been allocated. It just has to get reallocated to a different location.
Right.
Is that more also accurate?
No.
That's how, well, because it takes the 55 off of that 246, but it's still 180,000-ish, 85, I think it was.
Yeah, as far as being under
worksheets.
engineer's
Yes.
estimate, true,
Yes.
right. But the state, state would only contribute up to a cap. And the total overrun on the project, we need more money from the local share.
Yes,
The 55,000 is the local share.
yes, yes.
And I have another worksheet if you want to look at it later.
Okay.
That will give you, it's actually the worksheet that was submitted to the state on the closeout of the projects with the state.
Okay. Hearing all that, I look for a motion to approve the appropriation reduction for the Community Crossings Matching Grant in the amount of $246,154.58.
Jason Maxwell will make that.
Thank you, Jason.
Melissa Green will second that motion.
Motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0. And our next appropriation or transfer is for the sheriff in the amount of $25,000 from patrol cars to professional services. Sheriff?
Good evening.
Evening.
How's everybody?
We're good.
Aren't you glad to be in here when it's 64 degrees outside?
It's all right.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks, Troy. Real simple, real quick. What this is the 25,000 we're asking to, and I think this helps Dan out, to transfer is actually to the price that we pay for professional services to install the radios, the radars, the speed timing devices, everything inside the car itself. We can't take it out of patrol cars itself to pay for the professional services because I think it helps Dan out to do it this way.
Right.
And so we need to transfer that so we can pay the people that actually install the equipment inside the cars.
Okay. Thank you for that explanations. Anyone have questions?
Kelly Call will make a motion to approve $25,000 transfer from patrol cars to professional services.
We have a motion by Kelly Acala
Roy Sprinkle, second.
and a second by Troy Sprinkle. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0. Thank you, Sheriff.
Thanks, y'all.
Okay.
We're
back to community.
back to Community Crossings Matching Grant. There was a project overrun on the first grant, the second grant, there were excess funds. And this transfer over from the one project to the other, was all within the Community Crossings Matching Grant Fund, and it lessens the amount of money that we got to move in from the Motor Vehicle Highway Fund to the one group of projects that we had an overrun.
In the amount of $3,471.23. Questions? Comments?
Chip Keller will make the motion to approve that transfer between the two Community Crossroads Matching Grant Funds.
Thank you, Chip.
Vicki Kivett will second that motion.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0. All right. I guess I don't have the second page.
Is it on the-
Oh, wait, I bet it's over here. I may need to look at that. Probably didn't print it or something. I bet I didn't print the back of it. I'm sorry. Okay. Sometimes we beat a dead horse, but we've got an update to the EMS, EMT, and paramedic from our 3/7/22 meeting, and Dan's going to explain that to us a little bit with Keenan's input as well. Dan?
Yeah, we met this, we need one more fine tune to the ordinance that was adopted, or the amendment that was adopted at the last meeting. That ordinance, as it was written and adopted, was actually going to cost the county money, and that we need to, or we have in this amendment, added a base year for each of the EMTs and the paramedics. The other pay scale started off with year one. We really needed to have in the amendment a base year where we begin with the salary, and then we go 1 year at a time up the scale. And this amendment adds that base year. Also, the amendment changes the accrual date for the raise or increase in wage from the end of the previous calendar year to the anniversary of their hire date. That's consistent with how their pay scale was previously, and that also, that change to the previous year was going to cost money for the county, and was applying different rules than what existed previously with their pay rates.
Dan pretty much nailed it. I appreciate it, guys. I feel like it's Groundhog Day, believe me. I like the sheriff's idea plus a beer on top of that. But no, in fact, I was not able to perform the study with what was presented before, and what we're going to end up doing is having more people than not in that top tier, and it was going to absolutely just wreck the budget. And then on the back end, I had one particular full-timer, very phenomenal EMT, who was actually going to be taking quite the significant pay cut and owe the county money, which I just cannot let that sleep on my soul. So that's how we ended up here today.
So we all have a copy of the revised salary ordinance and how it would read. So any questions or further comments? Hearing none, I look for a motion.
Kelly Akala will make a motion to approve the updated salary ordinance for EMS.
Thank you, Kelly.
Jason,
Go ahead, Jason.
Jason Maxwell seconds.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Council members, thank you, and I'm not planning to be up here for quite some time, so dropping the mic.
All right. So we are, at this time, going to recess our regular meeting, and we're going to move into the second public hearing on our preliminary determination to issue bonds for a public works project. And I think, who is going to speak on that this evening? If you'll come up and introduce yourself, I appreciate it.
Good evening, Council. This is Zach Klutz with the Taft Law Firm. We are serving as bond counsel for the proposed 2022 GO bond issuance. Tonight is the second statutorily required public hearing that's required before you can make a preliminary determination to issue bonds. At the conclusion of the hearing, we have a very simple resolution I think was distributed at the last meeting, which is the preliminary determination that you would make. After the public hearing, and if that resolution passes, we would undertake the necessary steps to publish the notice that it has been adopted. And then the next item on the agenda is the underlying bond ordinance, which I can talk about next, I think, and that is the underlying authorization of the county to issue the debt and sell the bonds. So,
Thank you. I think everyone did receive a copy of the preliminary determination resolution. And at this time, we open it up for any comments or questions from the public. If you have any, please come to the microphone and give your name and address and any questions you may have. Hello.
My name is Betty Chamberlain. Do I have to do anything else other than give my name?
Tip your mic down a little bit, Betty.
Tip that, yeah. And what's your address, Betty? So
I'm
you're-
160 West Jackson Street.
Okay.
All right. First of all, you're going to have to explain what the bond is about, because I don't understand. Is that okay? There, thanks.
You want to explain that for us?
to address the question, what is the bond all about? The bond is another way of saying a governmental loan. So the county will be taking out a loan. Right now, it's an amount not to exceed $16 million, so that would be the absolute max that the county could borrow. It would likely be somewhere below that, but perhaps close to it, depending on how the project comes. In terms of what are the loan terms or what do we expect the loan terms to be, The bond resolution provides that the maximum term, repayment term would be for 15 years, but I think we're expecting an amortization of perhaps 10. We're also anticipating, or we have in the bond resolution, that the interest rate cannot be above 5%, but we're expecting, again, below that. We're just putting in the overall high parameters within the resolution. And then the loan proceeds will be used for various capital projects by the county. The county officials can speak more to it. I think it's been discussed, but improvements to existing facilities, perhaps a new facility, and various governmental entities and capital improvement projects.
Thank you. Betty, did that help? A little bit, but I have one more question. Okay, you come right on back up. Get your steps in.
I need now to know if that has anything to do with the three-story garage that wants to be built over there on West Jackson and West Columbus. Is that the one?
Potentially.
Potentially. Okay. My own personal view on, I'd rather see a parking lot instead of a three-story garage, because the penthouse would probably become a nice home for some people and things like that, okay?
I understand. I
Okay.
understand. And there's a lot of things, just so you're aware, there's a lot of options on the table right now, and we're working through those, but this is just the process to know that we're going to do something. We're not quite sure what that will be in the final stages, but potentially that could happen, but.
Well, most of us are in favor of the parking lot instead of the garage.
Right, I understand. Thank you for being here. Any other questions or comments? If you'll give your name and address, we'd sure appreciate that.
Danny Lundy, 133 West Harrison Street in Mooresville. I would like to echo what Betty said. A parking lot sounds a lot better than a parking garage. If you do opt for the parking garage, I would ask that each council member explain why those additional 200 parking spaces are worth $6 million plus interest to taxpayers. Because as I understand it, it was $7.5 million for the garage, about 1.5 for the parking lot. That's a pretty big disparity.
It
Thanks.
is. Thank you. Good evening.
Hi, Dave Snyder, 51 West High Street. Danny did not put me up to this, but basically ditto. I'm retired now, so I'm not a business owner or anything else, but I spend a lot of my time socializing. This has come up, Facebook, other social media, coffee shop, etc. And to a man, or woman, every single person that I've mentioned this pending project to has a one-word response. Why? So I just, I come down here occasionally, master gardeners, we do stuff down here. As a poll worker, got trained down here, town clerk, etc. I assumed that there was no parking, so I got here 30 minutes before this meeting started because I figured I'd have to park way far away and walk here, but lo and behold, 2/3 of the parking lot was empty. And I understand that the Purdue Extension folks are moving to the fairground. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but that would mean that there are going to be fewer people in this building, not more. So parking garage, also, but also too, I saw something that said security, a big bump out. And for the life of me, security for what? I don't know. So if you guys can enlighten me, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. We do have this project has a long-term plan eventually, if we can do some different things. And this is just the beginning of that project. And so we've still got a lot of moving parts to this in answer to your question. And right now, we're kind of at the beginning of that, where we're just looking for our funding, and then it will all come together at the end. But I don't have all the answers for you right now. But I understand what you're saying about parking, but today's parking will not be the parking needs in 5 years or 7 years. So we have to look to the future of what this county is going to need. Any other questions, comments? Thank you. And I'll be honest, this is the first bond issue I have gone through. So don't fault me if I have questions on and guidance on what we need to do next. I'm sorry, go right ahead. Your name and your address?
Matthew Pranger, 7995 East Oak State does sound like a project does need to move forward, but it does sound pretty, I guess, fiscally irresponsible to use it for parking garage if it's already earmarked to use a majority of that money or a great portion of it for a parking garage. But more money for projects does sound like a good idea.
Thank you. Josh, you want to guide us on what we need to do for the next, go ahead, or Zach.
Thank you. So at this time, if there's no further comments, we can conclude the public hearing, and then I'll walk us through the resolution and then introduction of the bond ordinance.
Let me just confirm there's no one else that has, I want to give everybody a chance. If anyone else has any further comments from the public? Oh, Commissioner Collier.
On behalf of the commissioners, and the commissioners can speak for themselves, but I'd like to address some of the concerns, especially from those from the northern end of the county. Because if I lived on the western or the eastern or the southern, any part of the county, I would question a parking garage. You have to visualize the whole concept of where we're moving as a county, and we're growing. So this is just the beginning. A beginning that probably should have happened 20 years ago. So we're behind the curve as far as when we should have started this. To address the parking in the parking garage, not my number one or the commissioner's number one option, but when you visualize that we have a courthouse that's 150 plus years old, that needs to be, well, it really can't be updated per se to be used as a courthouse or for the courts going forward. So we got with the judges, we've gotten with the council, we've gotten with the commissioners, we've gotten with the clerk, we've gotten with other people involved about possibly moving a court campus to where you had all the places to park when you got here. Those will be filled with a new building eventually. That's the direction we're going. But we are limited here in Morgan County with our funds. We can't tax the taxpayers to death. So we have to do this in phases. And this is the beginning of the phase. Now, if we go back, there's 7 homes behind where this parking garage is going. And so we're in negotiations with those 7 homes to possibly buy those homes, and then we can go back to a flat surface parking. But where you park this evening, right behind this building, in the near future, and we don't have a time frame, but based upon how much construction costs, how much we can collect, how fast we can go, we're thinking of moving the court to this campus right here. Then we can eventually go over and remodel the courthouse to make it more administrative. Then we can remodel this building to be prosecution and probation. If you've been into our buildings, this is our newest one. And it was built, I believe, in '96. And I always crack up when people from the southern end of the county talk about the new high school that was built between '74 and '76. And they still refer it in circles as the new high school. So this is a plan with limited funds going forward to move the ball, because our courts are under a lot of stress to function as a court. As the city, as the southern end of the county expands, and I think if you look at just their building permits and some of the homes that they're starting to build down here, the growth at Mooresville, I lived up there in 92, 93, 94, and you guys kicked me out back to the southern end of the county in 95. But you guys have just exploded. Monrovia is getting ready to explode. This county is getting ready to explode. And what we're trying to do, and again, the board can speak for themselves, we're taking a proactive approach to trying to address the needs that we see now and the needs that are going to happen if we get this explosive growth, and we're going to get it. So when it comes to parking, nobody really wants a parking garage, but nobody wants to take someone's home either. And the alternative is we own that land, so you build up. And so hopefully we can get agreements from those 7 people. Many of them have already agreed. Some of them are in the audience this evening. I would prefer to see a parking lot. And I think we're almost there. I really do. But this is a group thing that's been going on, but unfortunately, this should have started 20, 30 years ago. So to address some of your parking issues, this parking lot will eventually be gone, probably within a decade. And if we don't plan for that now, to have parking, it's just gonna be more expensive. At one of the meetings that we had, they said that you can easily project 3%. So take 3% on a $7 million project, add 3% to it, and wait 10 years.
Good point.
45-year historical lows on interest rates, they're starting to run on us. Anybody would see, I mean, with all the world events going on, if you look at the price of construction, it's starting to run on us. I wish we'd done this 10 years ago. So hopefully that kind of addresses some of the questions that were brought up. We're not hiding or dodging them. Please come to every meeting. Please question everything that Commissioner Collier does. You're not going to upset me, because I represent, yes, even those up in Mooresville, even though I'm District 1. That's why I had to have signs up there. So please do not hesitate to ask us, and hopefully that addresses concerns.
Brian, so just a point of clarification, and I think a lot of people just don't understand what's happening behind the scenes, and you have a right to ask questions, right? It's your money.
Yes.
The thing is, too, is that if you've ever had to go to the courthouse or do anything downtown Martinsville during Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, you can't find a parking spot, right? So the courthouse, all the employees there are taking up spots on the square, and there's not ample parking. I've tried myself during the daytime just to even find a spot to go to the bank or go to the post office. And this money that we're looking at right now, we don't have a solid, we have plans in place, but it, like Brian said, it's just going to depend on what happens with the houses on that block adjacent to us. But there is a bigger plan, and it's for the good of the county and for the county government. And so I think if everyone understands that there is a plan, this isn't just us saying, we're gonna throw away $1 million or $17 million or 16, whatever it is. There are plans in place, but we have to negotiate the different properties that we're looking at. And parking is definitely an issue in downtown Martinsville because of the county building. And I think that's important. You can't park at the businesses. You can't get to any of the businesses. And so I just, there is a long-term plan. It's going to be in stages. We're doing what we can, but we have to progress. I don't know if that helps.
Yeah, it makes sense to me.
I just want to point out too that when this started coming about, we did have hire a company that did a space evaluation of our buildings. And I spent some of my career over in the courthouse. That old lady, she's beautiful, but she's wore out. She needs a lot of work. And when you've got sewage dripping on an employee's desk and those mold and all that, it's time, people. Like Brian said, it's long overdue. I've seen them throw millions of dollars in that fine old lady over there, not add 1 square inch of working space or needed updates like it should have been done. And we're not going in this blindly. We're all here to represent you and your tax dollars. We're all open and available to talk to you about any of these matters that we can openly discuss. At times, we're at thresholds where we have to, keep it under wraps until certain things happen and negotiations take place and all that. But we're here to protect our public and our buildings and provide quality government service to not only the citizens of Morgan County, but people come from outside the county to do business, whether it be genealogy or whatever, with Morgan County. And they are always impressed with the quality of our staff, our employees. We consider our biggest assets, but we've got to keep on top of providing quality workspace for those employees as well. Thank you.
And one last, go ahead.
I'm going to ask you a question. Do we anticipate that if we do parking garage or paved parking back here, that we will have fewer county employees that park around the courthouse because they will be asked to park over here?
As the offices move over in this direction, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. And then my last concern, being a resident of Morgan County for about 48 of my 52 years, I left for college. It should be a concern to every citizen, the amount of capital projects that we have at hand. And it's a concern for the council, it's a concern for commissioners on finding ways to finance these capital projects. And it only makes sense to me, as we grow, there will be more demand for more capital projects. And now's the time to get it going. Thank you.
Thank you. Have another question?
My name is Nina Veach. I live at 159 West Jackson Street. Ours is one of the 7 houses that they're proposing to buy. I have one question. My husband, and I have only been married 3 years. He and his previous wife had lived there almost 8.5, 9 years. And they planted a tree in front of the house, and this is it, a year ago with snow on it.
Oh, my. It's gorgeous. Yes, it is gorgeous.
It was layered in ice, and he would like to know if at all possible, if that could be left in the groundwork, in the diagram. Excuse me, I'm sorry. As part of the perimeter, because it does sit next to the street. You can keep the picture. But I also want to say that I'm an ancestor of Martinsville. My grandparents were Martins. And for the last 72 years, well, let's put it last 52 years since Brian was born. I have sat behind the scenes and watched this county do nothing, and promises that there were things that were going to be done to the county and didn't get done. And I would just like to say, I appreciate everyone on this council, not for taking my home, but for looking to the future and improving the county and the city. Thank you.
Thank you.
Would you like your picture back, ma'am? Are you sure? Okay. I will.
Treg Hopkins, not a resident taxpayer, but representing as the Director of Transportation for the Building Better Communities. And very excited, obviously, for the future growth of the county, and thank you all for serving and helping promote that exciting future for us. I come to you just with concern over accessibility issues with whatever parking structure in addition that we have here, just to urge the council to take into careful consideration the multiple abilities that people have. Parking structures are notoriously inaccessible, not only for handicapped vehicles, but also residents of all different types of ability levels. Again, if we do it to a surface lot, sounds like commissioners would support that. Sounds like most of the people here would. Interested to hear what your opinions are as a council as well. But even with that, accessibility concerns exist, such as the width of the sidewalks. What is considered ADA compliant isn't necessarily best practice. And I just urge you all to take that into careful consideration. I'm sure I'll have several conversations with you all along the way.
You have resources that you'd like to share with us about that particular topic?
Yes, absolutely, and open that conversation and discussion. There's not only resources here, but Building Better Communities is working with an organization out of Evanston, Illinois. It's a national leader in accessibility. They'll be coming out over the summer and expressing a plan for us to consider here in Martinsville on just how we can integrate accessibility into the projects that are forthcoming, what we can do to make the county more accessible. And the great thing about accessibility is it truly makes it accessible to everyone, not those with low ability issues. So we all benefit if there are great bike trails connecting our communities recreationally, but it could mean the opportunity to get to a job somewhere else in the county. And again, with this particular concern, the parking structure, whatever it looks like, above ground, underground, or at that surface level, I think that we can do some things to make Morgan County really the most accessible county in America. We don't have far to go because the expectations are so low in other communities. So I think we're positioned well for the future and look forward to seeing these projects move forward fiscally responsibly, of course. Even though I'm not a taxpayer, I got to throw that in there.
Thank you, Trey. Any other questions or comments from the public? Hearing none, we'll call Zach back up to lead us, direct us in what we're to do this evening. Give us guidance.
Sure, thanks, Council President. At this time, I suggest closing the public hearing. I'll stay up here, and then we can walk through the resolution and then the introduction of the bond ordinance.
All right. At this time, we will close the second public hearing on the preliminary determination to issue bonds for a public works project. No, we don't need a motion.
Okay.
All right.
Do we need to open the meeting back up? Or is
Yes,
that-
I was
okay.
getting ready to say.
Oh, I'm sorry. Excuse me.
We will open up our regular meeting back up now and move into that. Go ahead.
So our first order of business would be to seek a motion for the preliminary determination resolution. We've now conducted our two statutorily required hearings. This sets forth your determination or your preliminary determination to issue debt. And once this is passed, like I said, we will take the statutorily required steps to have it published. And I'll pause.
I think everyone had a copy of this in your packet. I'm sure you've all had a chance to read that. So at this time, then we will look for a motion to approve the preliminary determination resolution.
Chip Keller will make that motion to approve this resolution.
We have a motion on the floor to approve the preliminary determination resolution.
Melissa Green will second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
So motion carries 6-1.
And I'd like to make a point of clarification from me. I'm opposed to the project because we don't know for sure that it won't be a parking garage. I would support a paved parking, but at this time, if we don't know it's going to be paved parking, that's my reason for voting no.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. Go right ahead.
If you're ready for the next item on the agenda, I think this would be the bond ordinance, and I'd be happy to introduce that now.
So,
Okay.
Yeah, that's next time.
Ready?
Yeah.
Okay. So we've made the preliminary determination. The bond ordinance is simply for first reading this evening. This is ordinance 2022-9. It's an ordinance authorizing the issuance of general obligation bonds in an amount not to exceed $16 million. These bonds would be backed by the full faith and credit of the county, which means the debt service will be paid by a property tax levy. In terms of timing, if this ordinance is to pass at the next meeting, we tentatively have the bond sale scheduled for May 23rd, which is just when the bonds are going to be priced, when we select the lowest bidder, with bond closing scheduled for the week of June 6th. And that means that's when the funds would arrive to the county for purposes of using the funds for the project. This bond ordinance is essentially the loan agreement between the county and the prospective lender, the bond purchaser. It's a little different than a normal loan. I mean, we're kind of dictating the terms. We're saying we're going to borrow up to this amount. We'll pay up to this amount of interest. We'll do this. We'll do this. Give us your best bid. That process will be in mid-May with the bond sale to occur May 23rd. I'll pause there. Happy to answer any questions. But again, this is for introduction and first reading this evening.
In your packet, and I think everyone received this, was the ordinance number 2022-9. Did anyone have any questions regarding that ordinance? No questions?
Okay. Thank you. That's all. I'll be back for the next meeting when this will be for second reading and adoption. We'll take care of the notices, and I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So we are back in our regular meeting, so we'll move on to the resolution.
For the purchasing agent.
Yes,
Yeah.
resolution authorizing purchasing agent. And who's going to explain that? Josh? Josh, are you going to explain that to us all?
On your agenda, the title is a little misleading. That was the resolution we put before the commissioners this morning. The resolution before you all is a confirmation that you are in favor because the houses across the street would be more than $25,000. Statutorily, we need to get your approval. And so we are asking for affirmative vote on this resolution so that we can proceed with the purchasing of the homes across the street.
Anyone have any questions on that process or what they're asking of us?
And I will make a clarification to your resolution that's in your packet. The very last lot is 190 West Columbus, not 180. The legal description is correct, but the address is.
Okay, I'm sorry. I had a lot of papers to look through. Okay, so it's a correction of 180 West Columbus? From 190 to 180 West Columbus?
From 180 to 190.
Oh, okay, then my packet has it correct.
Okay, well then,
Yeah.
I may have had an older copy. If you
Okay.
He's talking about the exhibit at the end.
Oh. Okay, it's correct on the resolution.
Yes.
Very last one, I think.
Yep, that was it, wasn't it? Oh, I
Very
see.
last
Okay. Should be 190. Got it. Thank you, Josh. Everyone understand? I look for a motion.
As I totally support a paved parking lot, I'll make the motion to approve this resolution to purchase these homes.
Vicki Kivett will second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0. Thank you. Okay, the next item on the agenda is the American Rescue Plan Act, known as ARPA, Local Fiscal Recovery Revenue Loss Calculation Discussion.
So you all have a memo in your packet, which is essentially a summary of what we found out from the final rule that came out and became effective April 1st of this year. During the interim rule, we didn't know exactly how this was going to shake out, but they have now said of the money that was allotted to us, we can presume that $10 million is revenue loss that can be used for other general government services generally. Previously, they gave us a percentage we could assume. Dan did that calculation for us last year. If we were to carry forward with those same percentage, sorry, let me back up. Dan calculated a number higher than what you could presume. That was an option. Even if we made use of Dan's number moving forward, it would not get to the $10 million threshold. So our recommendation is that we would take this presumptive loss. The commissioners approved us to elect that on our next report coming up at the end of this month. But we wanted to make sure that you all are aware and give you a chance to ask questions if you had any concerns.
Thank you.
So just to clarify, and this is me just kind of talking out loud and just confirm if what I'm saying is correct. So, the federal government passed through $13.6 million to the county roughly of ARPA funds. And when that was initially announced or given to us, there was a lot of strings attached to it and a lot of rules on here's how you can spend it, here's how you shouldn't. And oh, by the way, if you do spend it in an incorrect manner, you'll have to pay that money back at some point, which would be very bad for the county and the taxpayers. So the county's kind of just been holding off, correct? We're just kind of waiting to see, let things kind of filter down. And so now they've changed their minds and saying up to $10 million, we're going to give you much more flexibility now in how you can use this ARPA money.
Great summary.
Yes,
Okay.
good job, Chip.
Because if I was sitting out there, I still would just be like, what are they talking about? So.
Yep. And the commissioners have named or are in the process of naming their appointees to a committee that they start. I know that that's something that you all are considering as well, so that we can finally start making some positive progress now that we're comfortable with the rules.
Yeah, that's important to point out is we're looking for input from outside of this governmental group of council people and commissioners. We're going to look out to the public to ask some folks to maybe participate, which I think is a great thing. So,
Thank you. So we're looking for a motion. Do we need a motion? I don't think you're just clarifying what that letter had said to us. I was gonna say the money's already there and okay, thank you. Did everybody understand that? Chip, thank you for,
Sorry if I was overly talking.
No, we need to do that.
good job. All right, the next item on our agenda is the PSAP letter to fire chiefs discussion.
I don't know if you need to discuss that or not. Scott's here to answer your
Scott's
questions.
here. I think, just kind of give some clarification on this, if we all may remember it. During budget time last year, we had, right before budget time, the local fire departments, some of them were let know that they were going to owe their portion of a contractual agreement, and it kind of hit them close to their budget time, and they hadn't prepared for that. And so we voted last year to go ahead and continue that this year, paying that. But I think you're going to let us know now the letter has gone out officially to them to prepare them for
Well,
it.
if you guys are okay with it, it will be going out.
Okay.
That's my idea on it, and that way we can continue moving on with, move some of the things that are more their responsibilities, like their fire reporting to them, and let me use those funds to help pay for locution, contractual services or maintenance and things like that, and licensing also for active 911, which we are in the process of rolling out now. We have 4 or 5, 6 fire departments on it right now. We're continue to kind of roll that out, which will allow us to do some more alerting for them. And
Tell us how that's broken down as far as how you come to the numbers that you do as far as what department. You've got larger career departments, but how do you determine that? I mean,
that's up to ESO. That was ESO's definitions of what. It has to do with the number of paid staff that they have.
Okay, I was just wondering what they based it on. Okay.
Yeah, so, and Washington Township, at one time, last year, they probably would have fell into that because they added that station and had extra paid staff, but now they've closed that station down, so they're back down to a smaller number, so they fall probably below the threshold with what ESO would consider, or ERS, it's now ESO, would consider a larger department.
What's that stand for, Scott? The ERS and ESO?
ERS was Emergency Reporting Systems. Now ESO, I'm not sure what ESO stands for. We use them, the ambulance service uses them for billing, but they bought out ERS. Everybody's buying everybody out, so it's just, every time you turn around, you're chasing somebody down. So. And that's really all we're wanting to do, is just move forward with that so we can start planning for
your budget,
dispatching in the future and things like that. So.
Did everybody have a chance to review that letter that was in your packet and have an understanding of what that is and where we were at last year and why we waited? I mean, I don't have a problem with the letter at all and that going out and it being that cost shared, but I just didn't want it hitting them so close to their budget time last year, so.
This should be no surprise now, right? I mean, they know this is coming.
Yeah, it was discussed last year.
Yeah,
so.
and they were made aware that it was coming, but we absorbed it this last time. So, not hearing any further questions, I look for a motion to approve the PSAP letter to go out to fire chiefs.
Melissa Green will make the motion to approve this letter go out to our county fire chiefs.
Thank you, Melissa. We have a motion.
Kelly Akala, second.
And Kelly Akala, second. So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Have a
sir.
nice evening.
Next thing is, I think we've already talked about this, but appointments to the Arpa Advisory Committee discussion. I think we've kind of already gone over that. Any questions? I think we'll be working on we'll have 3 that we can appoint to that committee, and the commissioners have 4, so we'll be talking about that on who we want to appoint to that. Do we have any other business to come before the council this evening? Any public input? Anything anyone to ask about? Anybody want to ask about? Hearing none, I look for a motion to adjourn.
Vicki Kivett makes that motion.
Thank you, Vicki. Have a motion? Do I have a second?
Jason Maxwell seconds.
And Maxwell seconds. Don't anyone leave, because we've got papers coming down to sign. But all those in favor of adjournment, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
We're
Hey, Josh.
adjourned. We're adjourned.
Let me give you that before I forget. Okay, well,